Oh, okay, member for Johnston. That's very nice of you. Member for Parama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I note that the government has amended the original motion to congratulate itself for a range of cost of living measures while condemning the former Labor government for leaving the Territory with growing debt, saying future generations will pay the price. Madam Speaker, for anyone out there listening, like me, you might find the constant tit for tat between Labor and the CLP in this chamber boring and a waste of time. I asked in estimates how much it costs to run Parliament for the day. There wasn't a clear answer, but a back of the envelope figure is that Territorians are paying $112,000 a year, sorry, $112,000 a day just to run this building and administration, and that's without paying the 25 of us MLAs and ministers and their staff millions more in salaries. So Territorians have a right to know what they're getting for their money. And when Parliament time is wasted on endless attacks on either party, I wonder if that's what they want to be paying for, and I wonder if that's improving their cost of living.
This is opposition time. Go talk to the opposition.
Okay, silence.
I'm talking to both the opposition and the CLP. I'm talking to both parties about the amount of time that is wasted in this chamber with attacking each other and slagging each other off that does nothing to improve the lives of Territorians. That's who I'm talking to.
Can I just pause you there, Member for Johnston? The Member for Johnston listens to you all in absolute silence most of the time, so I think you should pay her the same respect. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is one part of the amendment that I do agree with. We absolutely should be thinking about future generations. But if this government is serious about protecting future generations, as is in the amended motion, it needs to focus on the long-term costs of the decisions it's making. Whether those decisions are about energy or education or community safety or development, future generations are not only going to inherit our balance sheet, but the country we're standing on, our energy systems, our infrastructure, and the consequences of our choices, including our climate choices. And to go to electricity, which is what the original motion was about, the decisions we make about electricity today will determine whether Territorians face lower power bills and a more resilient economy into the future, or whether they remain locked into an increasingly expensive gas-dependent system. And it's through that lens that I want to speak to this motion. Madam Speaker, every week in Johnston, every day in Johnston, I hear from people who are doing everything they can to keep their heads above water. Families are cutting back on groceries, older Territorians are skipping essentials, small businesses are struggling with rising operating costs, and all the time the cost of keeping the lights on continues to climb. We know in this chamber, we've talked about it before, that electricity is not a luxury, it's an essential service, and here in the Territory it's even more essential than it is in so many other places. Our climate means that people rely on air conditioning to stay safe through long, hot summers. We know that refrigeration is critical. For many people, particularly older Territorians and those with chronic health conditions, reliable electricity is a necessity, not a choice. And when power bills rise, everything else becomes harder. It's one of the key drivers of the cost of living pressures that people are experiencing across the Territory. But Madam Speaker, these rising costs are not simply bad luck, not simply an unavoidable consequence of global markets. They're also the result of political choices. And the government has made a conscious decision to double down on expensive gas even when much cheaper alternatives are available. For years, Territorians have been told that gas is the answer to our energy future, yet today gas is the single most expensive form of electricity generation in Australia. It's roughly twice the price of renewables, and the cost of renewable energy continues to fall. So instead of engaging with making sensible economic choice to transition to cheaper renewable energy generation, this government continues to tie Territory households to an increasingly expensive energy source. And it's difficult to understand why the government's still so committed to this after what's happened with gas supply in the Territory. We've heard in this chamber today, and according to the Treasurer in estimates, the Blacktip gas field has failed. We know Power and Water have had to source replacement gas at significant cost because of supply issues at Blacktip. We know there have been expensive contractual arrangements and commercial disputes. We know there have been costly failures along the way. What we don't know is exactly how much those decisions are contributing to Territory power bills. The government has not been transparent about that. And Territorians deserve to know whether they're paying for failed contracts and poor planning. They deserve to know how much these failed gas decisions are costing them every time their electricity bill arrives. But even if Blacktip had operated perfectly, even if the contract had gone exactly according to plan, we'd still be left with the same fundamental problem that gas is the most expensive way to generate electricity. The CLP, I know you will tell me that renewables are too expensive because of the setup costs, but at the same time, you're investing hundreds of millions of dollars supporting gas. You keep talking about how Beetaloo will be cost effective, but when I asked about the modelling to support this in estimates, no one could give it to me. Not one minister could show me any evidence, any proof that gas, including gas to come from Beetaloo, is the most cost-effective option for power in the Territory. What we do know, though, is that Power and Water Corporation say in their annual report that renewables investment poses a risk to the price they can sell gas for in their annual report at page 54, if anyone wants to have a look. There, they say that the potential impact from the displacement of gas by renewables over time is one of the risks to the corporation's ability to sell the gas at a price higher than the cost of gas and transport. And the report also warns that there's a significant risk that the value of its gas contracts could be reduced based on assumptions including that all gas purchased is on-sold and the outcome of customer contract negotiations. In other words, Madam Speaker, PwC's own financial reporting makes clear that any future increased investment in renewable energy threatens its ability to sell gas at profitable prices. That means, essentially, that PwC has a commercial interest in maintaining higher gas demand and prices, while the expansion of cheaper renewable alternatives poses a financial risk to its business model. That's exactly what they've said. And in the middle of a cost of living crisis, when lower cost energy options are increasingly available, a government-owned corporation with a financial interest in protecting higher gas prices simply does not pass the pub test. We heard that gas losses this year alone have cost PwC $132 million, driven by the failure of the Blacktip gas supply arrangement with ENI. How much of this has been passed on to Territorians? How much of the 5.3 increase that we're talking about today will go towards paying for those losses at Blacktip? Again, at Estimates Territory Generation, responsible for the NT's power sources, told us they've got 65 of their investments in gas. They said that protecting that investment doesn't affect their decision making, but they also refused to table any modelling showing how they actually make decisions about investing, including in renewables. Imagine if even part of the $355 million the government gave to the gas industry in the last financial year was invested in renewables, in batteries, or in helping households install batteries, upgrade rooftop solar, or improve energy efficiency. Instead of subsidising expensive fuel and the expansion of a dying industry driving climate change, we'd be helping Territorians permanently reduce their power bill. Madam Speaker, the government cannot keep pretending that locking Territorians into more gas contracts and subsidising more gas expansion is the cheapest path forward when all the evidence shows that renewables are far cheaper and the government has not been able to produce any modelling showing anything different. The Territory has some of the best solar resources in the world. We don't have to dig up and burn expensive gas. We should be making it easier for households, for businesses and communities to generate their own power. We should be supporting startups like Original Power, we just heard about them in the chamber earlier, so that remote communities can have reliable sovereign power sources. We should be investing in renewable generation that reduces long-term electricity costs. We should be supporting the rollout of rooftop solar, helping people upgrade ageing systems, investing in batteries and modernising our electricity network so solar and batteries can actually work and so that we can make the most of our cheaper renewable energy. And Madam Speaker, these investments do not just reduce emissions, they reduce power bills. They improve the cost of living crisis that Territorians are facing. They improve energy security and they reduce our dependence on increasingly expensive gas. Madam Speaker, once you build a solar farm, the fuel is free. Solar panels don't need gas, they don't need diesel, they don't need fuel delivery. Every morning the sun comes up for free. Once you've built the infrastructure, the cost of producing electricity is dramatically lower. So it's not just an environmental failure that I'm talking about here, it's a cost of living failure. Every dollar unnecessarily spent on expensive gas is a dollar that Territory families cannot spend on groceries, on rent, on school uniforms or on healthcare. And every year that we delay investment in cheaper renewable energy is another year that Territorians continue paying more than they should to power their homes. Governments can't control every cost facing households, but when a government corporation is controlling what sources of energy are available to Territorians, they can make decisions that either increase or reduce those costs. Madam Speaker, this isn't just a debate about the cost of electricity, and it's not just a debate about the cost of living today. It's also a debate about the cost of living for the next generation of Territorians and the liability of the Territory into the future. We all know that Territorians care deeply about the cost of living. I know that the people in my electorate of Johnston care deeply about it. They care whether they can afford to keep the lights on, whether they can afford to run the air conditioner, whether they still have enough money left at the end of the week for groceries, for rent and school uniforms. And they also care about leaving the next generation with a Territory that's affordable, that's sustainable and that's resilient. They care about that for their children. Right now, the Territory is set to bear the brunt of climate change. Temperature rises will be much higher here than in other places down south, and we've heard from the government over and over again that there is a belief in the climate crisis that we are facing here. We know that if we don't move away from fossil fuels, temperature rises will continue to go up, and we're not talking about unlivable temperatures by the end of the century anymore. We're talking about 2070. That's in our children's lifetimes, in some of our lifetimes here in this chamber. And we have a responsibility to future generations of the Territory to protect this incredible place that we are all so lucky to live in, that actually we are caretakers of, so that they can enjoy it and they can live here into the future. So if the CLP government continues to lock the Territory into increasingly expensive gas generation when cheaper and safer alternatives are available, they are not simply increasing today's electricity bills. They're locking future generations into higher costs, into greater exposure to volatile gas prices, into contributing to an unlivable climate and an energy system that will become more and more expensive over time. The Territory has some of the best renewable energy resources in the world, and we should be using that natural advantage to deliver cheaper power, to reduce pressure on household budgets, to strengthen our energy security and build a more sustainable economy and a more sustainable future for the Territory. Good governments don't just think about getting through the next budget. They make decisions that protect all of our futures as well as reduce the cost of living right now and into the long term. So Territorians deserve long-term planning, an energy system that delivers reliable, affordable power, not just this year, but for decades to come. Future generations should inherit a Territory that makes the most of our extraordinary natural advantages, with affordable power, lower household costs, greater energy security, and an economy that's built to thrive for decades to come. That's the opportunity before us. That's the opportunity that we have here as the people that our communities have elected to make decisions for them right now and for into the future and for their children. The government may only be thinking in 4-year election cycles, but the rest of us are here for the long term, Madam Speaker, and we're thinking about the Territory that we leave behind, and Territorians deserve a government that does the same. Thank you, Madam Speaker.